thank you very much for joining us this evening here for this concert, celebrating the end of a very special week for us at King's, and in particular in our program of Strategic Communication Masters here at the university. This concert is part of a large project that we have been developing for more than years, and in this year in particular with a special group of students that have put a lot of efforts to together dig into the archives of Senate House Library, search for what we have there that are related to the history of Latin America in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, in particular the year 1973 for Latin America. The idea was to try to look at that political posters and pamphlets and try to see what those posters and pamphlets were telling to us today, 50 years after when they were produced. Most of them produced by students that were at that time fighting against dictatorships all over the region. 73 is the year that we mark the unfortunate celebration of the coup d'etat in Chile in September 5th, 73. Also the beginning of a dictatorship in Uruguay, Brazil leaving a dictatorship at the same period. In Argentina, we saw the return of Perón that destabilized it politically as well. In many other countries in the region, this problematic troubles periods for us there, and I say us because I'm from Brazil, it's important to not look at these productions, at these posters, as something that is just a statical element hiding in a box. That's why the project called Thinking Inside the Box. We go there to look at these posters, try to revitalize them, try to perform them, like we do with music. Music paper is nothing if not performed. Music is just music because we play. So archives also, they need to be performed. And that's what we have done this entire year with a group of fantastic students from Stratcon, from history, from King's, from Leeds University, from Queen Mary University, from LSE, and I am missing some, UCL probably? No, we are not with UCL, sorry. Jokes apart. It was a fantastic exhibition that is still showing there in Bush House and Northeast Wing, I think. In the exchange, you are all invited to come and see the exhibition of the posters curated by the students there. We decided to do this concert to celebrate, to close this week of festivities, this week of festival, because we also think that the music is an important part of talking on this period. And then we choose a very short concert, but a very short program, but I think a quite remarkable one. We may not have here musics from 1973 itself, but they all create a sort of musical environment around that year and that period. The first piece we just listened, I imagine that many of you know that, Gracias a la Vida, by Violeta Parra. Violeta Parra was born in 1917, and she composed this piece in 1966, Gracias a la Vida, Thanks to Life is the title. And you may have heard one of the 300 recordings of this piece all over the world, most famous with Mercedes Sosa interpreting it. What is very paradoxical is that in 66 she writes this Gracias a la Vida, Thanks to Life, and the year after she committed suicide. It's quite strong, this act to Thanks to Life in the moment of despair that she's facing at that moment as well. And a sort of annunciation of what's coming for not only Chile, her country, but for many other countries in Latin America as well. I will try to read without my glasses here, so I may do that. I think the last verses of this song, they say a lot for us today. She finished saying, thanks to life, which has given me so much. It gave me laughter and it gave me longing. With them I distinguish happiness and pain, the two materials from which my songs are formed. And your song as well, which is the same song. And everyone's song, which is my very song as well. So I think it's quite important to think about that. We are today in this concert singing together this song of solidarity for many movements in the world that are today facing similar situations that we faced in Latin America in those years. So that was the first piece, Violeta Parra. She was quite important for the next one that we will hear. It's Victor Jara, who is also a composer from Chile, from the Nueva Canción Chilena. Fantastic author as well, theater director, very enthusiastic young activist who was motivated to compose by Violeta Parra, who he met when he was a very young boy still. This piece that we are performing, the next one, is called, that's okay, mine is there, but I think I can manage here. It's called La Partida. Well, that's probably one important central point of this concert today. Victor Jara, who was arrested in the coup d'etat in September 73, and suffered extreme torture in the days that just succeeded the coup d'etat. He was arrested in National Stadium in Chile, where many other young people, especially students, have been arrested, tortured, and he died because of torture. And he wrote a last poem there in the prison. And we will listen to this poem in a Spanish version, and it's not a long one. I just want to invite you to come into the meaning of that, the meaning of the strong words of someone who doesn't give up, even under certain circumstances like torture and the risk of life. So Paulina, who is from Chile, one of the students that participate in this project, she will be reading for us the Spanish original version of this poem.
Somos 5.000 aquí, en esta pequeña parte de la ciudad, somos 5.000. ¿Cuántos somos en total en las ciudades y en todo el país? Somos aquí 10.000 manos que siembran y hacen andar las fábricas. ¿Cuánta humanidad con hambre, frío, pánico, dolor, presión moral, terror y locura? 6 de los nuestros se perdieron en el espacio de las estrellas. Un muerto, un golpeado como jamás creí que se podría golpear a un ser humano. Los otros 4 quisieron quitarse todos los temores, uno saltando al vacío, otro golpeándose la cabeza contra el muro, pero todos con la mirada fija de la muerte. ¿Qué espanto causa el rostro del fascismo? Llevan a cabo sus planes con precisión artera sin importarles nada. La sangre para ellos son medallas, la matanza es acto de heroísmo. ¿Es este el mundo que creaste, Dios mío? Para esto, tus 7 días de asombro y trabajo. En estas 4 murallas solo existe un número que no progresa, que lentamente querrá la muerte. Pero de pronto me golpea la conciencia y veo esta marea sin latido y veo el pulso de las máquinas y los militares mostrando su rostro de matrona lleno de dulzura. Y México, Cuba y el mundo que griten esta ignominia. Somos 10.000 manos que no producen. ¿Cuántos somos en toda la patria? La sangre del compañero presidente golpea más fuerte que bombas y metrallas. Así golpeará nuestro puño nuevamente. Canto, qué mal me sales cuando tengo que cantar espanto. Espanto como el que vivo, como el que muero, espanto. De verme entre tantos y tantos momentos del infinito en que el silencio y el grito son las metas de este canto. Lo que nunca vi, lo que nunca he sentido, lo que siento ahora, hará brotar el momento.
The English translation says, there are 5,000 of us here in this small part of the city. We are 5,000. I wonder how many we are in all in the cities and in the whole country. Here alone are 10,000 hands which plant seeds and make the factories run. How much humanity exposed to hunger, cold, panic, pain, moral pressure, terror, and insanity. 6 of us were lost, as if into starry space. One dead, another beaten, as I could never have believed a human being could be beaten. The other 4 wanted to end their terror. One jumping into nothingness, another beating his head against a wall, but all with the fixed stare of death. What horror the face of fascism creates. They carry out their plans with knife-like precision. Nothing matters to them. To them, blood equals medals. Slaughter is an act of heroism. Oh God, is this the world that you created? For these your 7 days of wonder and work? Within these 4 walls, only a number exists, which does not progress. which slowly will wish more and more for dead. But suddenly, my conscience awakes, and I see that this tide has no heartbeat, only the pulse of machines, and the military showing their midwives' faces full of sweetness. Let Mexico, Cuba, and the world cry out against this atrocity. We are 10,000 hands, which can produce nothing. How many of us in the whole country? The blood of our president, our compañero, will strike with more strength than bombs and machine guns. So will our first strike again. How hard is to sing when I must sing of horror? Horror which I am living, horror which I am dying. To see myself among so much and so many moments of infinity, in which silence and screams are the end of my song. What I see, I have never seen. What I have felt and what I feel will give birth to the moment. We perform now La Partida, the departure. As I said, it's a very brief concert, it's not a long one. And now it comes, let's say, the second and last part of it, that is for us a really great honor to perform today. It's a piece written by Carlos Mejia Godoy. For those who don't know about Carlos Mejia Godoy, he's a Nicaraguan composer, songwriter. Back in the 60s and 70s, especially in the 70s, he was extremely engaged as a young student in the guerrilla movements against the dictatorship in Nicaragua. So he was part of the guerrilla as a fighter, but also songwriter. He basically composed the soundtrack of Nicaraguan guerrilla songs. La Nueva Canción, he was extremely representative of that. Carlos Mejia wrote Missa Campesina Nicaraguense. He studied to be priest in the Catholic Church, as well as Victor Jara, also studied to be priest in the Catholic Church, as well as me, so nobody's perfect. Jokes apart, Carlos Mejia Godoy was very engaged with theology of liberation movement and with the important fights against the dictatorship of Somoza in Nicaragua. They withdrew the dictatorship, they won the revolution. The first presidency, free presidency, was led by Daniel Ortega at that time, in the 80s, having Sergio Ramírez, a famous writer who has been here in Kings last year talking to us as well, as vice president. As I said, Mejia Godoy was member of this community as well. So what we know already about the situation in Nicaragua is that Ortega returned as president, elected a few years ago, or already some years ago, and basically reinstalled a model of dictatorship very similar to that one that he and Carlos and Sergio Ramírez, they fought against. The situation is that today Carlos Mejia Godoy is in exile in US. He's not living in Nicaragua. And we dialogued a lot about his music, his work, as this resistance against the tyranny in his own country, and also in favor of the solidarity around the world. I think that's a key word for us with this project, is we are learning that the solidarity cannot die, cannot stop. We need to constantly be reminding us the importance of cultivate democracy, because it's very easy to lose it, as this case of Nicaragua showed us. So Carlos Mejia Godoy wrote last year one oratorio, that's what we have here, a los mártires del 23 de julio, oratory to the martyrs of 23 of July. It's unpublished. There is only one recording online of this piece. So today we have the European premiere of this piece for sure, and the first live performance of this piece in a concert as well. So you are very privileged of having this first-hand performance of Carlos Mejia Godoy music here. In 23 of July 1959, a group of students just entering the university, they were protesting against the conditions of education in Nicaragua. Very peaceful protests. And Somoza dictatorship reacted with violence, and there was a massacre of students. Many of them have been killed at that moment. When Carlos Mejia Godoy wrote this piece, he told me, I was thinking on them, of course, but I also was thinking on the students that a few years ago, in 2018, started a movement against Ortega. The rebellion of students of 2018 that started exactly on the 19th of April, a few days ago. So the moment that we have here is also in the memory of those students that in 2018 have been killed again because they were just defending democracy in their countries. So this music is very meaningful for me, particularly to have the honor of bringing this piece to us. Also very meaningful because I have the opportunity of having with me, please Stefan, can you come here? Stefan Metzger, who is a good friend from my times as a student in Germany. We know each other from that time, and we are doing music together for quite a long time as good friends and colleagues in music. And I told Stefan, can you write the arrangements for this piece? Because Carlos wrote a melody like a songwriter. So we made this for our ensemble, for Brazil Ensemble. And it is for me a very great honor to have this ensemble that I am so proud of, and that it has a special space in my heart here in these years in Kings, because we are doing music together, and some of them indeed from the first concert we did in 2014. And also with Stefan for quite a long time. Stefan, would you like to say a few words about the arrangement, what you did?
Well, Vinicius said already that the most important part of music is it has to be played. But for this kind of music to be played, it had to be written down first, because the only thing there was a recording. So I wrote a score that this orchestra can play. And as you see, there are 5 parts, and the 5 parts are very varied between the different parts. And yeah, you can think about them like concentric shells around the center, and the center is the third part, which is a poem with a very concrete dramatization of the shots fired at the students. You will hear it. Around that, the parts 2 and 4 are like songs. The second song is very folkloric in nature. The fourth is dramatic, but all popular melodies. And the first and the fifth part are very different because they are practically Baroque music. It uses a motif like Passus Studiosculus, which is like a descending chromatic line, and so it's a really Baroque music, nothing of folklore, and maybe probably he studied to be a priest. This kind of Baroque music was also a part of him. So the piece is like a combination, a mixture of these different styles, and I hope from that.
Thank you, Stefan. And he's also the soloist of this piece. He will be singing with us. And Jocelyn, who is here with us playing viola, she is the one who is playing from the first concert with us. She also will be singing in a part of this piece with us today. I hope that you enjoy the music. You have the translation in English there of the words, so you can follow with us this dramatic moment. But it's a dramatic moment that recall for the need of this hope, and especially for the need of stand together in solidarity for those who are having their lives being challenged, and especially countries where democracy is in risk as well.
de Nicaragua. Se apagaron las farolas y se encendieron las máquinas. La catedral echó al aire el bronce de sus campanas, convocando a los creyentes a la misa esta mañana. La fuentecita del parque bisbisea una plegaria, mientras Pérez parpadea con las pupilas cansadas. Nada parece romper la quietud de esta mañana. En el cuartel frente al parque, una cascabel reptaba. Era el 23 de julio en León de Nicaragua. Se despertó muy oscuro la Marita Villalta. Se presignó despacito al abandonar la cama y tentando entre las sombras alcanzó a abrir la ventana con la chispa de un lucero y en el cielo titilaba. La Marita encendió su fogón allá en su tierra. Nada parece romper la quietud esta mañana, y entre los dos tenamastes la burrusca crepitaba. Era el 23 de julio en León de Nicaragua. El joven Tonio Mantilla vino desde Totogalpa. Se tomó su cafecito con pupusas segovianas. Quiere estudiar medicina y ser útil a la patria. Se pasó la mano izquierda por la cabeza rapada, mientras leía sonriente la papeleta rosada. Nada parece romper la quietud de esta mañana, y un parlante callejero anuncia con voz bien clara. Atención, mucha atención. A todos los estudiantes universitarios se les invita a participar en el tradicional desfile de los pelones, que este año estará dedicado a los mártires del Chaparral, caídos por la liberación de Nicaragua. A partir de las 3 de la tarde, todos los estudiantes a la avenida Universitaria. Repetimos, se les invita a participar en el tradicional desfile de los pelones, que este año estará dedicado a los mártires del Chaparral, caídos por la liberación de Nicaragua.
Sonaron las 5 en punto, en todita Nicaragua.
Junto a la esquina de Prío, un pelotón de la Guardia.
Sonaron las 5 en punto, en todita Nicaragua.
Frente a los cascos de acero, las cabezas rasuradas.
Sonaron las 5 en punto, en todita Nicaragua.
Frente a la bala siniestra, la juventud desarmada.
Sonaron las 5 en punto, en todita Nicaragua.
4 cabezas truncadas frente al altar de la patria.
And I just would like to ask you to repeat this applause now for Carlos Mejia Godoy, who will be listening to this, and for him that will be, he's not here with us, but he can be sure that we are there with him, supporting his cause and supporting him to continue composing such music like that. So a big applause to Carlos Mejia Godoy.